Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hello. So as you guys probably have noticed, we have a special guest today. And Kate and I are very excited to check back in with Dorothy. Now, last year, and quite frankly, we're all a little bit confused about the date, but it was 2020. So we made it through. That's the key. But last year, Dorothy and I sat down just as she was really beginning to get some traction with her pitching and with her clients. And we sat down to talk about what that was like for her and what her experiences were, what some of her goals are. And it's a great interview. So we've included it here. So what you're about to hear is Dorothy and I talking at some point last year, maybe February, maybe October, we don't know. But the key is that it was kind of at the beginning of her copywriting journey. And then after that, we're all three of us going to pop back and talk about how things are going for Dorothy today. I know you are going to love both of them. So without further ado, our episode from last year. So tell me about yourself and your background and why you were thinking about copywriting to begin with.
So I've done a lot of different things for work. I used to be a teacher. I taught Spanish at a high school in North Carolina, and then I also taught Spanish at a college here locally in Oneonta, and decided that the classroom is not the right place for me. I do like helping other people learn, which is probably part of why I'm so active in the group, because I see people, they're so nervous about, am I doing this right? Do I belong here? And I'm like, it's fine. You have to get through all that uncomfortable stuff and it'll start to get easier. And then you'll start to realize, oh yeah, I can actually do this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? I've done a lot of different jobs actually. So I ended up with copywriting because there's so much flexibility as far as how you want to approach the career.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that it's a blend of creative, but also some like hard data kind of stuff. There's specific problems, specific solutions, and you're going to know right away whether or not you did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it's not like creative writing where I feel like you have to pour your heart and soul into this piece of work and then send it out into the world before you have any idea if it's going to find its audience. So that would be really scary for me. So copy, I feel like I can take it one little project at a time, and that feels more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I agree. There is that element of you're never really looking at a blank page the way that you would be with creative writing, because there's always you at least know the messages that you have to get across. I mean, it's up to you to fill them in, but there is that element of it's never a completely blank page.
Yeah. For me, it really helps too that it's not about the copywriter.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of pressure off because it's not me trying to prove myself as an artistic genius or something. It's just, I have a problem to address. Here are these strategies that I know. Let's try them out. See how they work. Do we need to tweak it? Yes. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But it's not about any point in that process.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, there's still that element when you write something good, you get to go, oh my God, that's great. Look at this great writing I did.
Yes. And then you see the results that it gets for people, and that's really, really satisfying. Like I just wrote a sales page for a mastermind program, and my client's charging $7,500 for people to enroll in that program. So she's going to make tens of thousands of dollars
because of you.
I'm helping her with that. I'm
like, That's so awesome. So what has your experience with pitching and landing clients been like? What kind of results have you been seeing?
So I haven't been as consistent as I should be with the pitching. I'll just start out with that. But it's been a mix for me of fear and fun.
Welcome to life, right? Fear and fun.
Yeah. So it's scary sort of putting yourself out there in the beginning, but then you start to realize there's so many opportunities for you to help people. And it's, oh, okay, I can help them and I can help them and I can help them. And then you just put it out there. And most of the time when people have gotten back to me, it's been very positive, thanking me for reaching out. Even if they can't use my services right away, they've thanked me for the ideas and for getting them thinking about it. And so I've gotten some meetings from it, and my clients so far have actually been from referrals, which is kind of weird. You would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
But it's been, oh, I think they need a copywriter. I'll introduce you. But I have gotten meetings from the pitching and people who are excited to work with me when they finish what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one place they have to do major upgrades. They have a lot of construction they're doing, and they're like, okay, once that's done, we really want to work with you. Or another place, okay, I'm finishing up this other project across the country. Just let me get through with that. And then I really want to work with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm establishing relationships.
Yeah.
Even though, they don't always say yes right away. That's totally fine with me, because, they may down the line, they may not, or they may know somebody who could use my services. So that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's part of what pitching is, right? Is you're setting up work for the future. And that, like we've talked about in the group, the dry spells happen when you weren't pitching like a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago, because it's very rare, not very rare, you shouldn't say that, but it's less common for it to be like, yes, immediately, let's get started with work. And more often it's, okay, yes, let's talk, and let's talk about this project. And often, okay, well, yeah, we'll need you in a month or something like that. So let's get back in touch then. And yeah, exactly. Building a relationship. And like you were saying, then you've got referrals. There's so many nice people out in the world that even when you pitch to them, if they can't use you, if they have a friend who needs a copywriter and you have written a good pitch, which clearly you're doing, they'll send along your information.
Yeah. And that's really gratifying too, especially being so new to it. I had never done anything like copywriting professionally. I've done a lot of different kinds of things,
Yeah.
but I had never gotten paid for my writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always, in the back of your mind, that imposter syndrome, like, really, should I be getting paid well for doing this when I'm really new to it as a freelancer in my case?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because people need help with that stuff. And so if you're the one who shows up and you're like, hey, I can help you with this.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to, get more people converting on your website? Would that
Mm-hmm.
help you? Yes. Oh my God. It's been driving me crazy and I don't have time for it. So that's really gratifying that even though, you may be new in a career like copywriting, you can still help people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a valuable thing that you're providing.
Absolutely.
So exciting, especially since it was a major upheaval for me that led me into looking for a new thing like copywriting to begin with. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, and I've mentioned this in the group, the whole trigger for everything for me was I became disabled by chronic illness, and it's not terminal, so not going anywhere, but there's no cure and there's no treatment. So you basically just have symptoms that you have to learn to manage. And I had to leave the job that I was doing at the time. And then I had to figure out what I could do, since I couldn't do the jobs I'd done before. So it took me some time looking into other possibilities. And eventually I came across copywriting and realized I had already been doing some copywriting as a volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
and I had been getting good results. And I was like, wait, this is a thing people get paid for, and I'm doing it, but I'm not getting paid for it. I should figure out how to get paid for this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So then I knew I needed some training because I didn't want to jump into it and really have no idea what I was doing. So I was looking at different places that offered training for copywriting. And there are some online courses that are really inexpensive and super easy to access. And then there's some really high level ones, and none of those really seemed like a good fit for me. But I had been reading your blog posts and taking your quizzes and stuff. And it was all really resonating with me a lot more than any of the others were. So I thought, okay, I think I can do this. I'm just going to take a chance and enroll. And so I signed up, and it's been really good. I've taken my time. I took a long time with the course, finishing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I finally decided I need to stop being afraid and just put myself out in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I went freelance. I guess it was October when I got my my DBA. So that's when I officially registered as a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a few months ago. I'm a little baby entrepreneur, but it's been really nice being able to, decide what kinds of projects I'm willing to take on and what kinds of clients I want to talk to. And it's been a lot of fun. It's scary and challenging. And like now I'm doing a podcast interview. Like, what? Well, how did that happen? And I just started an Instagram account for my business to help get out there in front of other potential clients. And that is terrifying, but it's all these good kinds of scary, it's all the things. You talk so much about resistance and how a lot of times that means you're going in the direction of growth. And that's so true. Because I'm really introverted and I'm a perfectionist and I don't like being bad at stuff. But you have to be when you're doing something new. You have to just go through, like I used to tell my students, you're going to just suck at this for a while. And everybody does in the beginning. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because if you keep going, you will get better and it will get more comfortable. So, I'm doing all these things for my business that I don't feel ready for because I won't feel ready. And I know that about myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know all the things that I've been terrified about so far. Once I got on the other side of it, I felt so much better because then instead of sitting there nursing my fears and feeding them and hanging out with them, if your company is your fear, that's a really unhappy place to be. So once I personally try a new scary thing and set aside the fear and sort of leave that behind, then that leaves room for other things like client work that are more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting new people out there who say really nice things about me and my presence in their life. And, like I met somebody on Instagram of all places who, and it was totally random. She had just gotten asked to do her first speaking engagements and was really freaked out about it. I didn't know this person. We had never interacted, but I'm like, oh, she feels really scared. And I jumped in and I was saying all these nice things. Here's some tips from everything I've learned. And she was like, oh my God, you're so sweet. And then we started DMing back and forth and we may end up working together soon. But you don't know what's going to come back until you're out there and you're willing to interact with people and just give what you've got and see what comes back.
Mm-hmm.
I forget why I got on that tangent, but
I loved it. Yeah. But you're so right. It's all of this stuff and you hear this and you're like, yeah, sure. I understand that. But it's all of the things that you really want are outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like well, okay, sometimes I really want my sofa and Netflix, but the bigger things in life, the things that I'm going to look back and go, oh, I'm so proud of that, or wow, that made a difference. They're outside of your comfort zone, and that's uncomfortable until you do it. Maybe you do it a couple of times and you go, oh, okay, now I can do this now. Now my comfort zone is bigger.
Right, because it makes sense. The only things that are comfortable are the things you already have that are already familiar. So if you want something new, it's going to be weird in the beginning. Yeah. So
yeah.
There's a lot of identifying what the new scary thing is, and then finding, okay, what are the steps I can take in that direction, doing like one step at a time. And then you're like, oh, I'm already on my way. Cool.
Hey, look at this, and look at all the steps I've already taken. And I was going to take those steps, but those are done now. Yeah.
And for me, I like to set really small incremental goals because particularly with my health, sometimes I'll have a day or a couple of days where I'm just not really well enough to work. And so I need to leave flexibility. So my goals for my starting a business were really small. Like I wanted within a year to have my first $1,000 month. Mm-hmm. And that was my first month. Once I finally had a client and I'm like, whoa, that already happened.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to be talking to small businesses and selling, $100 projects, $200 projects. And eventually I'd build up to the point where I could make that much in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
If you meet the right person who knows they need a copywriter, they're like, okay, that first project went really well. Can you do all these other ones? And you say, yes, I can. So, now if I get one or two more regular clients, I'll be consistently doing probably twice what my goal was for the end of my first year. I'm close to that. So
That's awesome.
small reachable goals are really helpful for me. And then I'm really pleased to look back and say, okay, I met that. Let's do the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then what's the next highest small reachable goal? Yeah. But that's so cool that these small reachable goals have, are going to put you at the point where you have 2x what your goal was for the year. Like, that's amazing when you think about that.
Yeah. And I'm hesitant to make a goal for like the total for the entire first year in business, because
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Projects get held up and I broke my foot. So I was exhausted for weeks and I couldn't do as much work, stuff happens.
Yeah. Life happens.
It really,
Yeah.
really does.
Mm.
But, yeah, just as long as I keep going, I'm happy with making progress. If I'm having additional phone calls, just meeting new people, that's progress. Even if they don't say yes on that first call, it's still progress. You're still making these steps consistently that are going to grow your business. Even if it doesn't happen right away, you'll see fruition down the road.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about getting into copywriting or considering it? Is there any advice you'd give them or any insight you can offer now that you are a working copywriter, a regularly working copywriter?
Yeah, I would say, I guess, go with your gut. I mean, if you're the kind of person that you see the emails that come to your inbox and the direct mail that comes to your house, and you're always saying, I could do better than that, you're probably right. If you have that sort of, it takes a critical eye, I think,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to analyze what you're looking at and say, okay, here's how it can improve. And this applies to other people's work as well as your own, right? You have to be able to analyze your own work and self-edit and always be looking for what else can you cut out to slim it down? How can I make this more concise?
Mm-hmm.
So if you already have kind of an analytical eye and you're always picking out how to improve things, that's a good sign. That's something that people don't always enjoy about me, if they don't like always hearing feedback about things. But if that's something you're good at, this is a way that you can use that constructively,
Mm-hmm.
make you really good at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
People will appreciate that you have that trait, because they don't want to have to come back and give you 6 different edits to a project that you should have gotten right with a couple of small tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to hear the feedback and say, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, you're right. Okay, go back and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think just if copywriting is something people feel like they can make a difference and get results for people, give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And welcome back to present day. So much fun to listen to that interview and listen to what life was like back then, and even more fun, quite frankly, to catch up with you now. So welcome to the show, Dorothy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me back. I'm really excited. I love telling other people about what I went through as I was sort of developing my new career as a copywriter, because it helps people who have, for whatever reason, and sometimes it's similar to my reasons, illness, disability, whatever it might be. They feel like, this looks really insurmountable. Is it even possible? And then they hear that I did it and they're like, oh, okay, maybe I can do it too.
It's easy to forget that, not for you, but just in general, it's easy to forget that everybody's story looks different. It's very tempting for all of us to want to compare ourselves and set milestones based on what other people are doing, and that's not always a great way to try to live your life and to try to build your business.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, so what has happened in your business with your career since we last chatted last year?
I'm still enjoying all the one-on-one work that I'm doing. And just sort of the theme of the year is figuring out how much work can I take on. So I've been, not that I'm working myself to the bone, because we'll talk about this more later, but that's the antithesis of my approach to, how I've sort of designed my business. But I have been sort of gradually experimenting with, taking on different types of projects and, all right, how many of these can I fit in a given month and still have enough wiggle room? So it's been I've been taking my time trying to avoid too much of the sort of growing pains thing that a lot of new freelancers go through by being slow and intentional about how I grow.
That's wise. Yeah, it can be very tempting. I think with any new venture or new opportunity to go, okay, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to learn as fast as I can and I'm going to get live as fast as I can. I'm going to get clients as fast as I can and I'm going to take on as many clients as I can as fast as I can. And even when it's something that you love, that can be a really great way to burn out. And you might make a lot of money really fast, but if you can't sustain it, if you burn out and then need to take time off, then it's all
Right.
going to even out anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually in the Facebook group for the students of the CCA recently, one of the success stories who, replaced her income in 6 weeks, I think it was, she came back and gave us an update that, once she got to that point, after a few months, she had to reassess. And I think that's really smart. You do what you have to when you're first starting out. Not everybody has the luxury of going slow the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recognize I'm privileged to be in that position, that I could take my time. I'm not the sole wage earner in my house. But if you do have to start out, you have income you need to replace, you lost a job, whatever, do what you have to do in the beginning, but just know that everybody has to reassess at some point and make some decisions about what you need your career to look like for it to really be working for you. And I think a lot of us are raised with a different mindset where you don't really have to make all those hard decisions for yourself. You don't have to ask the difficult questions. You just have to go to college, get a good job, and then somebody else will do all that for you, which is really seductive. And that was me for a long time. I never thought that I was going to be a business owner. I just didn't think I was cut out for it. I didn't think I would enjoy it, particularly being an introvert. I really dreaded the idea of taking on something where my livelihood and my success depended on meeting people, because that's not something I'm naturally good at. I've had to work a lot at it. But yeah, that's one of those things, if you're an introvert or if you don't think you have a head for business, these are all things you can learn. There's skills that you can practice and get better at, and you'll find a way to make it work if that's what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I would call myself kind of an ambivert. I think, Kate, you would identify the same way. Mm-hmm. But I think what has helped in the process for people who identify as introverts, and I think we have a decent amount of them. I think writers kind of gravitate toward being inward, or chicken egg, or would you
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that you don't start out a conversation with a stranger by like getting on the phone, or you don't have to walk up to someone at an event and say, "Hey, hire me," that instead it begins over email conversations, and it begins not trying to sell, but instead trying to provide value and trying to just be a genuine person and give ideas. I think that has been something that's made it a little bit easier in terms of being willing to get out there and get outside of that introversion.
Yeah,
you're building
absolutely.
A relationship.
100% agree. I mean, that's one of the things that I found really a huge relief when I got into the CCA and learned how you teach pitching to start getting work as a copywriter. I was like, oh, I just send this specific type of email and do a follow-up, and I don't have to talk to them if they don't want to talk to me. This is amazing. I can do that, which is great because I really, really hated the idea of having to go to networking events and introduce myself to strangers and like do the elevator pitch thing. And, oh yeah, I'm this professional that you should be working with because blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. A lot of the things that you teach in the CCA about pitching, but also just like that you can make decisions about what kind of career you want. You can do on staff, you can do contract work, you can do freelance, and you don't have to be locked into one for, your entire career. You can do more than one simultaneously, or you can shift from one to another like both of you have done. So I think the fact that you sort of built in all the information that people need to make informed choices about how they want to work in copywriting makes a huge difference. So I love that about the CCA, that you have, you give a sense of what it's going to look like to get into these different ways of working as a copywriter, and the pitching process in particular, which luckily I haven't had to do a lot of after the first couple of months. And I know you tell everybody pitch regularly anyway, even when you have the work you need, because you will hit a dry spell. And she's right. If you're listening, Nicki knows what she's talking about. It will happen to you.
I'm intrigued though to hear you. So you haven't been pitching a lot, it sounds like, but you have work coming in. So
yeah,
I know you were working with a ton of artists. Are you still working with artists? What other types of folks are you working with? And clearly there's some referrals coming in.
Yeah, it's so a little bit with some artists. Most of it has actually been solopreneurs, like business coaches and things like that, which is awesome because first of all, I'm meeting so many cool people who are lifting up other people and creating new possibilities for each other, which I just love. And then I get to be part of that whole ripple effect, right? So I'm not just making money, I'm helping other people create a different life for themselves by writing copy, which I didn't even know was a thing a few years ago, right? I love working with entrepreneurs who are helping other entrepreneurs. That's like, if you're empowering other people to do good things and like make their own seat at the table and claim their space, I am all about that. I never thought that I would be a part of any of that before I realized I could have a business, and I could have a business as a writer. So that's been pretty amazing. Like, not only can I get paid for writing, but I'm actually really helping people, which is awesome.
What helped you get acclimated to that idea of like, to go from, oh, I'll never have a business to yeah, okay, I can do this. I can have a business and I will do this for a living.
So that didn't happen until I had been in the CCA for a while. And you guys might remember, I took a long time to get through the actual course material. And I was doing it with the mindset that I was going to be pursuing probably agency work, because coming into a completely different career where I had no experience as a paid writer, I didn't have any experience in marketing. So I thought
most of us don't.
Right.
You're not alone.
Most people coming into the CCA, if you're wondering, do not have previous experience in marketing or advertising, or, a lot of us weren't writers at any point previously. But I think I was assuming I'm going to look for agency work so that I can learn from more experienced people and, maybe have a mentorship type situation. But I needed something that was remote and part-time, and ideally with flexible hours. And this was before COVID. So it was a little harder to get, I think, work as an employee, fully remote, part-time, and being brand new. Like, it wasn't, oh yes, I have 5 years of experience, now I'd like to work for you remotely. At that point, it was really hard for companies to put that trust in a new employee if they've never worked with you, So I think that's changed a bit now, because so many places had to go fully remote for a long time. But at the time, that job just was not out there. And so, after spending months searching for the unicorn job that fit my requirements, I just realized, I don't think it's going to be out there. I think I just have to create that job that I need, which was terrifying. But the other option was, stay on this really demoralizing job market where nobody is creating the jobs that I really need for my situation, or stay unemployed. So I really didn't want to stay unemployed, and I really didn't want to stay on the job market when nobody wanted to work with people like me, because I wasn't the, ideal candidate that they were looking for that makes their life easy. So eventually I decided, okay, I'm just going to have to try going freelance and see how that goes. And it took a while for me to really start to think of myself as a business owner. But that was the only way, really. It was, for me, that kind of became my only option, because I didn't want to just surrender to the circumstances that I found myself in anymore. I was ready to try something new, and I put all my eggs in the CCA basket. I was like, all right, I'm gonna finish this. I don't know what it's gonna look like to finish this. I don't know what's gonna happen when I'm done, but I did commit to myself, however long it takes, I'm gonna finish this program. I'm gonna finish this training. I'm gonna do the practice work, and I'm gonna follow the steps and put out feelers and try to land work. And I didn't put pressure on myself as far as how fast that would happen, because I had no idea. But I thought, this is the only way I'm going to find out what's possible for me in my situation. Nobody knows, like literally nobody knows. If you have an illness like mine, nobody can tell you what you're going to be able to do with the level of consciousness that I have to keep of my energies. Really going freelance became the only option.
That's so fascinating, because I think a lot of people in a similar situation with similar challenges, really even dissimilar challenge, I think the assumption that they would make is that, oh, you can't go freelance because of all of the things that you just listed. So I think it's so interesting that you have built this freelance career within the parameters of what your body is able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was my only option. Like, everybody's got to be conscious of where they're putting their energies. And I think healthy people tend to not pay as much attention to that as they probably should, because they get away with it. Right. And I used to be like that too. I could afford to make some bad decisions and, spend a week doing something that wasn't going to get me anything in return, just because I wanted to, because it was fun. But, making the same decisions now, there is serious payback. If I spend too long, just as an example for what I do now, if I spend too much time in one day writing copy, on the computer, not taking enough breaks, trying to hit a deadline, because I took on too much work like I did last month. If I do that for too long and I ignore the limitations that I know I have, I can do it, but I'm going to crash hard. So then I might have days afterwards where I'm pretty much useless. Like, my brain doesn't work well enough to focus on actually writing the copy that gets me paid. So I can't have a sustainable business if I'm not putting my body's needs and my disability front and center, because I can ignore them for a time, but it's a question of at what cost, right? So, and for most people, it's easier to ignore the cost because they're more long-term, they're gradual. Chronic stress makes people sick, but just not all that quickly. So you may not see the connection between all the late hours you're working and working through weekends and, skipping family events or socializing with friends so that you can make more money that month, so you can hit that really, honestly, pretty arbitrary goal that you set for your revenue. It takes a toll. So you may not see it right away, but it will catch up to you, and you don't know what that's going to look like. So I think it would benefit everybody really to be more conscious of, what are you spending your energy on? And is it draining you and making you feel worse? Or is it giving something back to you and energizing you and making you feel excited about what you're doing? And I know that there's not every situation is a situation where you have the luxury of only prioritizing how it makes you feel. You know, sometimes you have to do the sucky, hard things because you're just not to that point yet where you have the freedoms to do only what you want to do. And I get that. But there's going to be a day of reckoning at some point, right? Yeah, so I sort of took the opposite approach that a lot of people do in deciding sort of what shape my business was going to take. Yeah. So
and the thing is too, is that may be what they charge, and that may be what they're getting. They may be getting clients at that rate, but it's so different for everyone. I think everyone wishes that we could just give them a formula. Like, oh, you've been writing copy for this many months or this many years, and you do this kind of work and plug it all in a calculator, and here's what it comes out to. But there's so many factors that go into pricing your work. Yeah. What one charges and what one receives is it's so different from person to person and Kate and I will readily admit that we compare ourselves in many different ways to many different people. So I think it's part of being a human to want to compare ourselves to other humans and see how we are matching up. Am I making more, but am I more experienced? Am I, do they live in this kind of a house and I live in this kind of I think it's part of the human experience, but it's such a detrimental part of the human experience to base ourselves and how we operate based on that.
Yeah. Whatever you take into account, I think at the end of the day, you have to do a gut check. Like, do I feel good about charging this rate for this work? And honestly, my personal financial goals, they're not as ambitious as some people's, partly because I'm not the sole wage earner in my family. So I have that luxury of having at this point, it's a full-time income from part-time hours. It's not anything that's going to buy us a yacht or anything, but I don't want a yacht.
Also, that's nothing to sneeze at. A full-time income from part-time hours is amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's got to depend on how I'm tolerating my work level, right? The specific jobs that I'm taking on. Like April last month, I took on too many things because I was at a pretty comfortable level. And then 2 opportunities came my way that were really exciting, but that had to happen that month. And I'm like, I think I can fit it in. Sure. So I said yes to both of them. And lo and behold, I don't have more energy just because I said yes to more things. Like, I still have the same amount of, we call them spoons in the chronic illness community. A spoon is just an energy unit. So it's emotional, physical, mental energy. So how much energy I have for cognitive tasks, like writing copy, how much energy I have to get in fights with my teenager, or break up a fight between my kids. All those things have an impact on how much energy I have for any kind of task. So, and it varies with the level of stress that I'm under. So, for example, 2020, oh my goodness, not an easy time to be managing my spoons, right? There was a lot happening. So all those stressors meant that I couldn't do as much work. And I actually stopped taking on new projects and basically took a few months off. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of this year. And we'll see if we hit that big dream stretch goal of paying off those student loans.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Well, and I think that spoon concept is very interesting. I really like the metaphor. I think that that's something that, quote unquote, maybe not quote unquote, but healthier, there's a spectrum of health, right? But healthier people, or people who tend to take their health for granted, need to think about too. Kate and I were on a call yesterday going, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. And I think that a lot of people are used to just pushing. And to your point, last year was a really mentally difficult time, sometimes physically difficult time, definitely emotionally difficult time. And I think it would behoove everyone to be thinking in terms of, how many spoons do I actually have in my drawer today? or this week or this month, even maybe a little too big, but even just like, okay, it's Friday. What do I have left to give? And what instead do I need to think? What do I need to save for later? Or how can I rest myself so that, because I have this one thing I need to get done and I've got one spoon. So how can I rest myself outside of that? I think it's such an interesting concept and definitely something that would benefit everyone. From thinking about.
Totally agree.
Someone in the group was just talking about that. I think yesterday, you're a parent, you're trying to get this business up and running. You're homeschooling your kids during the pandemic. You still have to grocery shop and clean the house and do all these things. And it's one of those, you can't do it all at once. Can you do it all? Maybe. And I like to think, yes, you can do everything you want and fit everything you want into your life, but all at the same time, no way.
Yeah. People think that they can just create more energy, create more capacity to do more things in their life. I can fit in more stuff. I'll just drink more coffee. I can. I'll drink more coffee. I'll take Adderall. I'll, drink an energy drink, whatever it is that people think is just going to make them be able to cram more stuff into your life. It may look like you can fit more in, but again, you're taking out a loan on future spoons, basically. So spoon theory, I forget the name of the person who coined it. It's somebody who has lupus. And this is a metaphor she came up with to explain to her friend who did not understand why she couldn't always do certain things, because she looked healthy and she can go out to lunch with her friend. She's like, why don't you want to do this with me? So she had to explain, it's not because I don't want to. I really, really do. But here's the thing. I start out each day with a limited amount of energy. I don't know how much it's going to be on any given day. They're at a diner, so that she grabs this fistful of spoons and she's like, okay, these spoons are my energy for the day. Once I spend them, I don't get them back. Right. So say you, want to make a healthy dinner, that might be 3 spoons. And say you have to run an unexpected errand, that might be 5 spoons because it's really stressful. You don't know when you're going to run out of spoons. You might run out of spoons when it's like 12 in the afternoon or 2 o'clock and realize I cannot do anything else. I'm done.
It's so fascinating. Yeah. When I think, it's true for everyone, right? Like everyone, it's just someone who's healthier might just start out the day with more spoons, and they might be spending fewer spoons on activities than someone who has different illnesses or issues or challenges. But it's still, and she said she's challenged. I'm daily challenged by what I want to get done versus what I think. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot of guilt when I get to a certain point in my day and I'm like, I need 1,000%. To do this and I can't. And that guilt takes spoons as well.
Absolutely. That will drain a lot of spoons, because then it's like layer upon layer of pressure on yourself to achieve things that are not achievable, but you're trying to fool yourself into thinking that they are because you feel like you should be able to achieve them. Yeah. So it can be useful for healthy people too, to sort of give yourself that permission to step back and be like, no, you know what? I'm out of spoons for the day. I would like there to be more, but there aren't. They're gone. I can't make there be more spoons, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you don't have, chronic illness or disability or anything, it might be a useful way to just sort of think about, okay, I want to be able to do these other things because I feel like, I'm going to be more successful, or I'm going to feel better about myself, or whatever it is that's driving you to try to do more. So take that time, check in as you go. How's it really going? Not just looking at the numbers, not just, okay, did I hit a 10K month? How's it really going for you? Because you have to be able to keep going and keep it up in order to get where you think you're going, or you're going to end up somewhere really different.
That's so wise. I really love where this conversation went. I know I took a lot away from it, and I'm sure Kate did as well. And I know that our listeners will as well, listeners and viewers. And before we forget and let you go, if someone has been listening to this and thinking, oh, I really like the way she thinks about things, I really like her vibe, she sounds like a fantastic copywriter, I'd love to see her work and maybe hire her, where can people find you on the net?
Yeah, I'm at dorothycopy.com. That's DOROTHY. Do not forget the second O. And I'm also on Instagram at dorothycopy. So if you want to connect on there and send me a message and chat about all things copy related, or spoon theory, or disability, or what it's like to start a business with a chronic illness, I'm totally down for that. Oh, also on my website, I have a review for CCA and Filthy Rich Writer. So if you want to hear more about what that experience was like for me going through the course and getting started, that's on my website as well.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much for talking with me originally, and then for coming back and sharing more of your experience. It's been fascinating, and we will just continue to enjoy watching you grow and succeed.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And it was so great reconnecting with both of you. You're like my copywriting heroes. And I just love that we know each other, and that like I've got to work for you, and I got to coach other students with you guys. And I feel so privileged and lucky that I found CCA, and I had no idea where it was going to go, but it went really good places. So thank you for all those Facebook ads, Nicki, that sucked me in.
Thank you for sharing your spoons with the community, because
thank
you. You've put a lot of energy in that. So
yes. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and a pleasure to see you succeed. Yeah.
This isn't the last time we'll talk to you, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll be back. Yes. And so there you have it, guys. As we were saying, we definitely took a lot away from this, and I'm sure that you will as well. So take those notes, go back, maybe listen through again, because we covered a lot of important stuff. And of course, as always, we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyrichriter.com. We'll see you next time.